about this. I'm out of this. What the hell do I do now?
This is Andrew Ray.
YouTube sensation Andrew Ray.
One of the most popular cooking shows in all of YouTube.
Andrew Ray, aka Binging with Babish, built a media empire off of the back of his TV and movie-inspired cooking tutorials that get millions of views.
This week, I'm going to be recreating ratatouille, biscuits, cannoli. We're making arepas con queso from Encanto.
Today, Binging with Babish has a larger following than most traditional food networks and celebrity chefs. He's growing his business with the help of his longtime business partner and friend, Sawyer, who was sitting in the room with us when we were recording. Together, they're scaling his brand, adding new hosts to the channel, launching best-selling books, and his very own line of cookware. We interviewed Andrew right after he spoke to a group of creators at the Samsung Galaxy Creator Collective in New York City. We spoke to him about how he started the channel, the struggles that he faces as a creator, and what it takes to build a modern media company.
Before we get into the interview with Babish, we want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN.
Nord, welcome back to the channel.
Nord was actually our first sponsor ever on this channel back in 2018. Yeah, that's what we looked like in 2018. You actually look basically the same.
No, I think I look better.
Oh, you think you look better?
Yeah, I think.
Ooh. So typically when you use the internet, your connection is just straight from your device to the website. And that is really easy to hack. So with a VPN, your information goes encrypted on the way in and on the way out, keeping your identity and data safe on the internet. Now, since we made that video back in 2018, I've grown out my hair, and Nord has actually become more than just a regular VPN. They introduced a new feature called Threat Protection, which with just a click of a button in your NordVPN app, blocks trackers, harmful websites, and malicious ads. I got my parents set up on NordVPN because they'll click on anything that pops up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. NordVPN has over 5,400 servers in over 60 countries. So you can watch your favorite content anywhere in the world.
So let's log into a server in France because I'm actually going there this summer for my honeymoon.
Oh.
And I can see what's trending on YouTube in France. I can even watch a French movie on Netflix so I can learn some French. Je m'appelle Samir.
Je m'appelle Colin. So head to nordvpn.com/ColinandSamir. It's completely risk-free to try, and they even have a 30-day money-back guarantee.
If you use the internet, which obviously you do because you're watching this show, you should definitely be using NordVPN. So head to the link in our description. And now for our interview with Andrew Ray, aka Binging with Babish.
Your name is not actually Babish.
Mm-hmm.
When you first started uploading content, or when you first created the channel, did you want a certain level of anonymity?
I didn't want anonymity per se. Too many cooking shows I thought weren't enough about the food. So I wanted to make a show where the focus was first and foremost on the food. That's why I wore a black apron, very shallow depth of field. The only things in focus are the food and relatively visible. Anything that I'm bringing to the table as a personality is incidental. That was the original hope.
When you realize, all right, there's a problem with cooking shows, why did you say to yourself, all right, maybe I should solve it?
Well, you want me to be real with you too?
Let's get real.
Okay. I started making the show because I was wildly depressed. I had some relationship problems, I had career problems, and I had just been in a creative endeavor that had completely demolished me. It was a year and a half long. It face planted a documentary that I was working on. It was one of the most discouraging experiences of my life, professionally or personally. And it made me think like, wow, I don't think I have anything to say. I don't think I am ever going to make it as a creator of any kind. And at the time, content creator wasn't a job description yet. If you wrote that on like an application, you'd be laughed out of the bank. But at the time, I didn't necessarily want to become a YouTuber. I just wanted to make something again. Feel the way that I felt in film school back in college when I couldn't wait, when I would rip the memory card out of the camera and run over to the computer and start editing before I was even finished shooting. Like that's the way I used to work when I was excited. And so it was in an effort to kind of try to find that again. So I had bought a camera and a light. I had gone to therapy first. That's, anybody dealing with mental health issues, please get the help that you need. Because it's what I did, and it opened up the bandwidth for me to experiment again, play again, have some fun. And I bought a camera and a light. I intended to sort of shore up my documentary production acumen because I had been doing some of that at the time. I thought maybe I can get into that. And then I was screwing around in the kitchen one day. I wasn't trying to solve any problem. I wasn't trying to, come up with something new. I just was watching Parks and Rec in the background like it was music. That's what I do. And then there was that episode on with the burger cook-off. And I was like, what if I tried that? and I was, screwing around in the kitchen anyway, and I shot it. I put it up, never intended to make another one. And now here we are 6 years later talking about it. That's the YouTube American dream, or the YouTube worldwide dream.
That's really interesting. And first of all, thanks for sharing that. I think that's really important to share and tell stories around how people did find their creativity, especially a story like that. You're mentioning that making the doc in the year prior was something that really kind of weighed on you and your mental health. What was the difference in making a piece of content and uploading it to YouTube with that Parks and Rec burger cook-off?
What was the difference between...
Or did it feel different? Like, was there a different relationship with that experience?
Yeah. I was really disillusioned about becoming, at the time it was called a director, but now it's called a content creator. I had a major crisis of faith in myself that I would ever amount to anything in this industry. I was going to work an office job. I was going to, I had the realization that none of my dreams were going to come true, like that bottom of the barrel moment when you realize that maybe the life that you pictured for yourself is a fantasy. And I hit that moment. I was in bed for like 2 weeks feigning food poisoning because I just couldn't get up and face the day. And eventually I was like, oh God, I need help. So I went and got it. Mm-hmm. And that's what opened up the bandwidth. And the difference was in how I felt about it. I was excited about it. I was passionate about it. I love food, I love movies, I love making content. And I was doing all three. It was like magic. I was 20, how old was I? I was 28, 29 when I started, I guess. It took me that long to figure out, to put together the things that I enjoyed so much in the world. Pop culture references, movies, TV, and food, and also making movies. All the things that I love the most in the world. It took me a long time to figure it out, so don't beat up on yourself if it takes you a while to figure it out, folks. Sometimes it's a lifelong process.
It's taken us 10 years to get to this show.
Exactly, so there you go.
It's
you
a
guys
long
know.
process.
Was there, it sounds like an experience of internal validation was happening post that YouTube video, but did that stem from external validation that was coming? Like, what was the reaction to that video?
So I cannot remember how many views it got, but because of a trailer mashup that is still live on the channel, Army of Darkness mashed up with 300 trailer audio. That was the hot thing to do. It must have been 2008 when I did that. Okay. So that was like the hot thing to do on YouTube, was make trailer mashups. And so I uploaded that. It got like 100,000 views, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Especially back then, in 2008, I felt like a celebrity. It was unbelievable. And then, so a few thousand people subscribed to me, and a trickle continued over the next, like you said, 10 years. And then all of a sudden, out of the woodwork, I was like, hey, here's a new show, video, everything. I'm a completely different person now. And I wasn't doing it with the intention of launching a channel. I think I got like 20,000 views on the first episode, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Amazing. Yeah.
But I did it by virtue of these ghost subscribers that I had from years ago who hadn't thought about me, I'm sure, since 5 minutes after they would have finished watching my video, which was 10 years ago. So I'm sure it was a surprise for them to see me show up on their subscription feed. So I had a leg up that way. This is these built-in subscribers I had. So I got like 20,000 views. That was encouraging. The feedback was very positive. That was encouraging. But it didn't have to get that many views, I hope. I don't know, because I wasn't there and I didn't experience it. But I would hope that if it got fewer views and I still felt positively about it, that I would either continue doing it or at least see the value of having done it as an experiment, as an exercise.
Right. And so from that video, you started creating more from there. Like, what was the cadence to that? And I guess, what did the next year look like?
Oh, I think it was like one a month after that. I'd have to look at it was whenever I could get them done, because I was working a full-time job and I was putting 20 to 40 hours a week on top of that 60-hour-a-week job to make this show.
What was that job?
Visual effects for commercials, mostly. I started as an assistant and worked my way up to a senior flame artist. Flame is a software made by Autodesk that very few people have heard of.
I
Maybe
thought
you guys
were
have heard of it.
doing like graphic flames, like
No,
the fire
exactly,
guy. Yeah.
exactly. And before that, I
Need
was
fire, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
before that, I was a smoke
Best fire guy in the
artist.
business.
There's another piece of software called Smoke in the same architecture.
Very confusing.
So I would say, I would say I'm a smoke artist, and when people would ask what that is, I'd say, well, I take 2 Marlboro lights and I just wave them around, and I'm a smoke artist. But so I was in the industry. I wasn't, working a soul-crushing job. I was still enjoying myself. I loved the people I work with, hanging out with them next weekend. I'm still very close with them. But my soul was crushed from another factor. It was this other project that had just basically stripped me of any notion that maybe I could make it in this industry.
As you started uploading YouTube content, you have this day job. Did the fantasy or the dream, the renewed dream, kind of become, I want to do YouTube full time? Or did that just happen naturally?
It just happened naturally because, in fact, again, I went to film school in 2005 to 2009. I shot my senior thesis project on 16 millimeter. Okay. Yeah. I am from the old school, unfortunately. So my initial feeling about becoming a YouTuber was to rail against it because I thought it was, the simplification or whatever of whatever art I thought I was a practitioner of. Mm-hmm. Cool. But really, as I realized, like, wow, I have complete creative autonomy. I have complete professional autonomy. And I can make money doing this. I'd be crazy not to, even if I could use it as a springboard into something else. Maybe if I get 100,000 subscribers, maybe I can get a development deal or something, get a TV show going, use it as a foray into my desired path. And then before I knew it, it was my desired path. It was like, why would I want to do anything else in the world? I get to reach people, I get to teach people, nothing else rhymes with reach or teach.
Yeah.
I don't leech off people.
Preach.
I don't preach, I hope. Stacy Keach is a great actor.
Stacy Keach was the first thing that came to mind.
That's the first time I said, you're so mean. He's such a good actor. Anyway.
So with that creative autonomy, when you look back at the first episode about Parks and Rec and the episodes that came after it in that first year, what did you put into those videos from a creative standpoint that represent sort of the DNA of your videos?
The lifeblood of the channel that has been there since the beginning, even without our knowledge, is the embracing of mistakes and the importance of mistakes for entertainment value, for comedic timing, for the basic things, but also unintentionally, again, I thought it was just funny for me to, try peeling garlic with the hack where you shake it in the tin. That was the first mistake that I showed. It was the third episode. I took off the lid and the garlic wasn't peeled. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have whiskey about it. And people liked that because I think now in retrospect, it made me less, I wasn't putting myself on a pedestal as a creator. I wasn't saying, I know more than you, so I'm gonna show you. Which is the case when you're a creator. You want to share your knowledge or your passion or your ideas, but we were doing it in a way that shows like, we screw up too. I screw up too. Yeah. I burn things all the time. I drop things. I spill things. That's what cooking is. It's not the polished, perfect thing that you see on TV. It's messy. It's discouraging.
It's almost a metaphor outside of cooking because it just feels like actually life is just like that. It's just sometimes messy and it doesn't always happen the way you want, but showing that, and I think showing the mistakes is such a refreshing take on
Thank you.
Just storytelling. And I think that's something that YouTube brought, in the beginning especially, was, hey, let's just show what life looks like and let's see. We had this craving for reality television on one side, and that brought us this craving to say, let's just learn more about people, and then that's what YouTube brought, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, that to me builds like a depth of connection with you. The voiceover, the mistakes that are left in, the kind of humor that you bring, it builds a depth of connection with you.
I love that you use the word depth.
Yeah.
Because the fact that literally implies that I'm no longer a two-dimensional thing on a screen. I'm something that you feel like you're part of. And so a lot of people think that we sometimes stage the mistakes, which I can truthfully say I don't think we've ever done. All of the mistakes I can think of on the channel are genuine. And it's because I never practice the dish first, ever. Never have once ever tried making it first. I've tried it to make it for myself or whatever, or incidentally, but I've never rehearsed a dish before making it on the show. Because if I do screw up, it's likely a mistake that a beginner is going to make, because I am also a beginner in this situation.
Right.
And some people say that, oh, I'm sick of him screwing around, staging these mistakes. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm truly not. Like that tiramisu falling out from the tiramisu episode, anybody who's seen it?
Now, there are much simpler and easier ways to make tiramisu, ones that don't take hours of careful preparation, but nothing quite beats the feeling of accomplishment. No! Oh my God, it's the sum of all my fears.
They think that I did that to, sort of segue into the commercial thing that we were doing for the Phillips Latte Go, one of the things I'm most proud of in my life. Swear and I locked ourselves with cameraman Tim in my house for a week, and that came out, and I'm so happy with it. But anyway, they were like, oh, you just did that to make a segue into the commercial. But the truth is, I genuinely didn't lock the bottom of my springform in place correctly. And when I came to edit it, I was like, well, this is perfect. This is a perfect way to get into the commercial. It was that spark of filmmaking, the thing that I was missing. Sometimes things, you guys are filmmakers. Sometimes things just work, like music cues. Sometimes when you're playing it back, you didn't even arrange it that way, but the music hits right at the right spot. That's the magic of filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to education too, leaving the mistakes in is even more important. There's a level, right, of like humanizing yourself and building depth. But then also, like, if I'm trying to learn from you, I actually want to wait to see if you make a mistake, because that helps inform me where I might make a mistake. I have a really hard time following food recipes where it's perfect the whole time, because I feel like I'm actually failing the entire time that I'm following along. And I think we try and implement the same thing when we're educating about creators, is to make sure that we include every single mistake, because that's actually where all the learning is happening.
Right.
I mean, content creation is messy, fellas. You know that. Like, whether you're dude perfect at the very high end of the spectrum, or whether you're just starting out, it's a garage band effort. Like, even though Dude Perfect is so huge, and they have, their gigantic complex out there, and every video gets 50 million views, you can still feel the genuineness of what they're doing, because they're still in the garage band, even though they made the garage huge. I haven't watched them in a while, so I don't know how
it's funny you bring them up specifically, because we used to produce with them.
Oh, really?
So we've actually held cameras and shot a Dude Perfect video, and
well, that's my perception.
But they were primarily holding the camera, which was unbelievable. It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, they were holding the camera, like they were making the content. We were throwing ideas out. It was that garage band.
They've got the glide cam, their backs are hurting from holding it, and you're like, this is amazing.
How cool is that?
Super cool.
Like, how different, too, from a traditional film set.
So in that first year, from 2016 to 2017, when did you realize that you could make money on YouTube? When did you realize like that was a reality?
It's thanks to this guy. I'm gonna keep pointing at him. I hope we're getting a shot of him.
There he is. Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah.
We need him on camera. So Sawyer is the one who initially convinced me that, not only was this something we could make money doing, but also he saw it as bigger than it was immediately. He saw it as it becoming bigger than it was way before I did, or anybody else did. Everybody thought it was cool or interesting or a fun hobby. And once I started making money at it, they were like, wow, you can make money doing that? And this guy the whole time was like, this ticks so many boxes for what him consider a legacy, impactful, important brand that we could potentially build out of this. So anyway, this probably didn't actually realize any money from YouTube for about a year. I think it was just about a year.
And that was from AdSense or from a brand partnership?
First it was AdSense. We turned on AdSense because I put out an episode with no rat-a-tat on it. That was the first one to make some money. And then the first integration we did was with Squarespace, who we're still partnered with to this day. It must have been 5 years later now.
You also had a Patreon, and your audience was supporting the content pretty significantly at that time. Can you talk through just that decision to start a Patreon and what that experience was like?
Yeah, I, again, was trying to make this my full-time job. And I thought if I hit a certain dollar amount on Patreon, that's reliable money. It's coming in the door. Those are people that are supporting me. And if I have that as a baseline, I can pay my rent and I can eat. And that's about it. And so once I hit that point, really, it was Patreon that freed me from a day job, because that was the reliable money. That was I mean, I could lose at any time, but that's just like any money.
Right.
But that was the paycheck, so to speak, the regular money. That's what is so scary about leaving a full-time job with benefits and hours and going out on your own, especially when you're like me, extremely unorganized. I remember my first day after I quit my job. I was beside myself. I was in my underwear until noon, mostly because I felt like I could, but I felt like, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah, I went to the beach when I quit my job.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
This is the least enjoyable trip to the beach I've ever taken.
That's the most
really overwhelming.
frightening, overwhelming, bewildering part of your career as a creator is the day you decide to become a creator full-time.
Yes.
And I had the relative comfort of Patreon supporters to be like, okay, I have X amount of dollars coming in every month. I think we've learned how to make a entertainment vehicle that also works
Symbiotically?
Symbiotically, that's it.
Yeah, I could feel it on the tip
I
of
was
your
picturing
tongue.
the bird on the back of the rhino.
Sure.
That's how I remember the word symbiotic.
Yeah, okay.
Because they have a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
It works symbiotically between the brand, us, and the viewer.
Yeah.
Because we've figured out a way to make our content as profitable as we can, so we can unlock more ability as creators and as a company. We're hiring now. We just hired our newest guy. Just started last week. I'm so excited about it. Hopefully we're going to do an even larger expansion in the future. But anyway,
it's such a wild experience for a creator. Like for us, especially last year, it was just Colin and myself, and we're hiring and building a team, and walking into a studio or an office and seeing people working on this show. I actually think as creators, bringing a team and developing a process for what you're making takes some of the incredible challenges out of performance of an episode. When we have an episode last year that wouldn't perform well, we would sit together and be like, it's us.
We suck.
We're terrible, right? And now, as we start to develop and we're like, okay, that didn't do as well, we sit as a team and talk about the process and what could be fixed to make it better. And that process is almost like a third party that we all work on.
And it works the same way for the things that are good that happen. It's much more exhilarating and feels a lot more valuable when we can share in the excitement of some of this growth.
Agreed.
As you hire and as you bring people on board, two things get to happen. Both are essential for expansion and sustainability. Delegation and collaboration. You got other creatives, fresh eyes, to bring their unique perspective to what you're doing and how to make it new and different, better, evolve it. And you also have the ability to delegate, because I'm 34 now. I had the energy to do this all myself when I was 27 when I started, and now I'm fresh out. I still have lots of energy. I'm still very excited to make the show. But as I know you guys want to talk about, we've expanded the brand and the channel to more than just me, because it's much bigger than me. It is a platform, and not only is it my responsibility to share it, it's what I need to do to be able to keep making content, because I can't keep putting out 2 videos a week. I'll die.
To sustain a career for as long as you've done it, I think team has to be one of the most important things in hiring.
If you do want to reach another strata, or just, it all comes back to the same feeling that you have when you quit your day job to become a creator. If you want to grow, you got to feel that feeling over and over again, because you're constantly going to be asked if you want to pull a trigger or roll the dice and bet on you and what you're doing as worth pursuing.
Yeah.
How do you get over, the feeling that maybe you don't have anything worth saying?
To say, yeah.
But it's a terrifying feeling to bet on yourself and to believe that you have something worth sharing, something worth building on.
Yeah.
Other people entrusting their careers with you. They're not just their livelihood, not just their pay, their career. They're going to be associated with you. That's going to be on their resume for the rest of their lives. What a responsibility.
Yeah, and you have to have radical belief in what you're creating.
I think one of the toughest things too, when you're a creator like yourself and you're building a team, is feeling like you have something that's important to say. And then as you bring on team members, entrusting other people to help you say things.
Well, that's the part where you have to really humble yourself, because you do have to be like, what I have to say is worth saying. You have to stand your ground when you know that it's true, but you also have to really humble yourself to be like, I'm also not always right about what I should say or how I should say it. And that's what these people are here for, is to distill the message into something that is going to be the best for the channel and for the audience, for you. So you have to trust in them too. You have to trust in yourself and in them. So
not only have you built out a team, but you've also kind of expanded from just yourself on the channel to the Babish culinary universe. Can you kind of talk about that a bit and some of the decision that went into expanding like that?
I mean, that is no different from hiring out, because, but it's bigger and more exciting, because we realized that this brand, this platform is bigger than me. Like, there's some part of us that was like, okay, let's just use Andrew's the personality on this channel. That's what we focus on. And then when that became not only untenable, but also untrue, when we had more and more people on the show as guests, whatever, and then we saw comments saying like, Alvin should have his own show, Sola should have her own show, Brad Leone should have his own show on VCU. We realized people like the way we do things, the way we tell stories, which is, like we said, empathetically, honestly, hopefully, and realistically, and with good humor and self-awareness, and not as little pretense as possible, not trying to take ourselves too seriously, and putting damn near anybody with talent in that environment, they're going to shine. That's what we found with Kendall. She came to work with us with no intention of ending up on camera, and look where she is now, because she's talented, she's passionate, she's magnetic when she gets talking about it, and we couldn't wait to put her on camera. The other purpose that serves, besides using this platform as more than just a device to further my ego, is also the ability for me to keep being a creator. At the height of the pandemic, when the lockdowns all started happening, I upped my cadence to 2 videos a week, which, you've seen my videos, there's a lot of production that goes into them. Even when it's just me, there's a lot of prep, and every shot, the depth of field is so shallow. Every shot has to be refocused whenever I move anything. And there's so much work that goes into it, and I didn't notice what had happened. I did that during the height of the pandemic when I had nothing else to do. Nobody had anything else to do but the things that they could do in their house. And then the world started spinning again, and Zoom meetings started happening again, phone calls and real life meetings and all that stuff. And with the return of responsibility and just being a human being, I kept the pace of 2 per week. And I only just realized, towards the end of last year, you guys know, sponsors towards the end of the year, ramps up and up and up, and it gets crazy towards the end of the year. And I spun out real bad at the end of this past year, just because I didn't realize that I was overworked, because when you're passionate about what you're doing, when you're so excited about it, you don't notice that you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You don't feel it until then, until you can't function otherwise, until you're running on fumes all the time.
Yes.
So you keep petering out.
And it becomes incredibly normal to run on fumes.
Yeah.
And I also think when you're that passionate about it, we've talked about this with other creators, your growth and like doing this thing that has become your dream job is only capped by your willingness to work. There's no one who's going to tell you stop.
Yeah.
And also the internet doesn't tell you stop. YouTube's like, yeah, keep going. It's so
You're doing
fast.
something that's never been done before.
Yeah.
The need for a cadence of release, like these guys talking about posting 8 times a day. How the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I know that they're TikToks and maybe they're a little easier to make because you're doing it with your phone, but this still takes a lot of effort. It takes creative effort, it takes time, it takes resources. It drains you. I don't know how they can do that. It's because they're in their 20s, I think. And I mean, I wish more power to them, and I hope that they are taking care of themselves, because when you're in 20s, and I'm sure you guys might agree with me, you feel like you don't need to take care of yourself at all. I went 4 years once without going to the dentist. And it was because of the show.
Right.
It was recent. I went so long without going to the dentist because I felt healthy enough, and I just thought, like, nothing's ever been wrong with my teeth before. I've never had a cavity. And you might think that about any part of yourself, like I've never been depressed before, or I've never been, had a nervous breakdown or a panic attack before. And so you think that it can't affect you. That kind of work schedule can't hurt you. It will eventually. It might not right now. So it's just something, like you guys said, to be aware of as you're building it.
And that experience towards the end of the year is what further pushed you to bring on different talent and creators to the channel?
Yes. The answer is yes, that experience definitely spurred a change in direction and priorities for our company, that we realized we're well positioned to become a brand that permeates a whole bunch of different categories: hospitality, brick and mortar locations, products, cookware. We have the cookware out now. That was a 2-year-long process, designing and getting that out. And that's why I'm here talking with you guys today, so you can see how exciting it is when these things connect, you know? We wouldn't be having this conversation if we hadn't decided to say, okay, you know what? We can make good cookware. This company, Gibson, can make good cookware. We're gonna put this out. And just doing that with as much confidence as possible, knowing there were gonna be bad reviews, knowing that some people wouldn't see what we were trying to do, and hoping that it worked for the best. And then now we're here talking about it. It's hard to deny the insane spider web of things that happen when you allow them to happen.
When you put yourself in that position for them to happen.
Which is a scary position to be in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, the cookware was so interesting to us that we actually organically bought it ourselves,
Well, thank you.
which was awesome.
We'll send you a set. Did we send you a set?
Right now, we just have the knife and it's in my kitchen.
We should really send them more stuff, guys.
But it's really great. And the reason we bought it was because we were so impressed with that exact notion of how you were building. Like the fact that this YouTube show that started in your apartment was building into a holistic brand. And I think that creators as the modern media company and creators as the modern, just mega companies is one of the most interesting things to us.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting is we were at BuzzFeed a few years ago, and they brought us through their sort of like cooking vertical. And it was, here's the set where we make the food, and then right next to it, here's the products we sell. But that's BuzzFeed. That's a major media company.
Yeah.
And you are now this new generation of creator-first media company that actually knows what it's like to always be in the edit, always be in the ideas. The core of the company starts with someone who actually just wanted to express himself.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you saying that. And that's where it started with me and Sawyer, is people who, he in particular before me, saw the potential feature and the iteration of the company that it is now. He said it, and I was like, bullshit. I was like, no way are we gonna be able to ever do anything like that. And now we're getting there.
I think what it does too is it puts an interesting responsibility actually in a way on you, because you're redefining sort of what it means to be a media company who is led by a creator. So now you're bringing on creators who've even come from other media companies, but you have this empathy for maybe how they want to be treated, the type of deal that they want to have, the relationship that they want to have between the culinary universe and who they are.
And the decisions that we're choosing to make as we go into that are transparency first and foremost. If there's one thing that sucks more than anything, is it's underpaying, undervaluing, and lying to creators, which is what happens when creators work for major media publishers and legacy brands. Sometimes, I'm not saying all of them, but sometimes that is what happens, because that is the way things were. You go and be a photographer for X magazine. Until you're the chief of photography, you're not gonna make a dime, but until then, you'll make 20 bucks a picture. That is how the world of content creation worked until this moment that we find ourselves in now, because we wanna be transparent with the creators that we bring on. We tell them, and as such, I can say that we pay them a percentage instead of a flat fee. So their videos are earning what they earn. And if they have integrations on it, they're paid a percentage of that too.
Oh, wow.
So the people who are getting paid a salary are the people who are behind the camera, and the people who are in front of the camera are getting paid a literal profit share of their work.
That's super cool.
That's very cool.
Thank you. And
that's super cool.
That's how we want to lead this company, every aspect of the company, not just with a creator's perspective at heart. Yes, that's definitely there, but also, like you said, the empathy aspect. How do people want to be treated? I know it's a simplistic thing to say at this size of a company. I'm sure if we ever have 500 employees, it's going to be even more of a contrived thing to say. But we're trying to see how we could do business in ways where we can do as much good as make money, which is a very rare air to breathe.
Yeah, but it's a good mission.
I apologize to interrupt. I think we gotta change cards if we're gonna.
Okay.
And while they change the cards, we want to tell you about our newsletter called The Publish Press, which breaks down the business of creators every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the description or by going to thepublishedpress.com. Also, just a heads up, our lav microphone's cut out, so the audio will sound a little bit different the remainder of the interview.
As creators ourselves, I don't think every creator wants to be the CEO of a company. I don't think every creator wants to take on the stress that it is to run a business. But a lot of creators want to create and be treated like their work is supporting the growth of the company. So is that a conscious decision just because you're a creator yourself to share in the profit with the creators?
100%, because that's what I got.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't a CEO the day I, quit my job. I was just a solo lone wolf creator, and I got to reap the benefits of my work directly. I got to, my representation, my partners would take their respective pieces, and everything left just went straight to me. And what an empowering thing as a creator to profit directly and trackably, intrinsically with your work, with how popular your work is, or how much people resonate with it. And what an incredible thing we get to be able to do by giving other creators ownership of their work. Not, I don't know if it's literal ownership, but like the IP, but they get a percentage of what the video profits between AdSense and integrations, and that gives them a literal feeling of ownership of what they're doing. I hope.
You've been very open about mental health, and I think as it pertains to being a creator and creative, and I think just also as it pertains to being a human. But to continue doing this career is incredibly challenging. It becomes more people, more responsibility, more businesses. It's kind of tough to be off as Andrew Ray, right? It's tough because you're involved in so much of this.
I'm involved in so much of it, and the big problem that I had was that my ego and my sense of self-worth got totally tangled up in the channel, because I'm putting myself on display, and that's what we're doing as content creators. You guys are being yourselves in your videos, so you're putting yourselves on display, and when people criticize it, it's very easy to take it to heart. When views drop, as I don't know if they did for you guys, but creator-wide, over the past 6 months, there's been just a dip for a lot of channels, especially food channels. It can be really discouraging, even if you're just a creator working on that channel. It can be devastating if your ego is wraps up, if your sense of self-worth, if what makes you get out of the bed in the morning and want to try and want to do more is determined by how a needle is moving online, how many people are watching, if they like it, what they're saying. It was so nice on my subreddit. It was so lovely, but I can't tell you how strange it is to have a thread started positing about your mental health, just saying like, is Andrew all right? It was done out of concern, and I love it, and I appreciate whoever posted that. But also, I can't tell you what kind of phenomenon it is when they know that like, this isn't just a show, this is you putting yourself out there, and are they okay? And then everybody's theory on why the content has felt different recently. And that's what happened, 6 months ago. And a lot of things happen, a lot of things that sort of, small things like that, behind the curtain things that just really dealt some blows. And I spun out. I was still making 2 episodes a week. Every episode had a sponsor. Sponsors need, a week lead time, 2 weeks lead time, month lead time, depending on, who the sponsor is. So everything had to be getting done ahead of time, more work than usual. And then what do you end up doing? You're living your dream life and you're hating it. And that's where I was at. I wasn't hating my life, but what I was miserable. I couldn't make content. I couldn't do it. I was so, I could, but like I was dragging myself through it, and people saw that, and that's why they posted that thread. Is Andrew okay? Because they could smell, they could taste the difference in what I was doing, and it's because I had lost the joy for what I was doing, because I was robotically churning out as much as I possibly could, which is why over the past, I haven't announced it hard yet, but I've lowered my cadence, my release cadence to 1 episode a week. That's what it used to be. That's where I'm going to stay, because that's what I can sustain while I'm working on building these new businesses. And in its place come these new voices, these new creators. Alvin, we're hoping, is going to have an episode a week. Kendall, we're hoping, is going to have an episode a month to start, and then an episode a week once the team and she is feeling ready for it, because it's still finding its footing. It's a new show. We're only just figuring it out exactly what it is yet. And Rick wants to simplify his show, Prevolo, to be a simpler, more cooking-oriented show, I think. I need to talk to him about it, but he wants to retool his show. It too is evolving into what's going to make him happiest as a creator and what his audience is going to enjoy the most.
Wow.
And all that is only possible by realizing that you need to say no sometimes. You need to be able to say no to even opportunities that you thought you'd never have in a million years, because you need to come first. And oddly enough, turning down money is the self, in a good way, the selfish thing to do, because you're like, that's one less thing I need to do. Yeah, I'd get more money in the bank, but that's living like this is all going to go away tomorrow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't live like that.
Yeah,
You can't live
totally agree.
thinking, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you need to know that all things are impermanent, but you can't live in fear of that impermanence. You can't live in fear that your channel is going to crash and burn tomorrow. You'll never sleep at night. I wasn't.
We've been saying that a lot
We've been
lately,
saying that a lot.
trying to have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Because we spent so many years creating in fear that now we actually have a career. Why should we go back to creating in fear?
Right.
That's a beautiful way to be able to look at
You
it,
know.
fellas.
And I think a great place for us to wrap here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you for reviewing my
Well,
You sold me a lot of knives. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Amazing.
Guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
I appreciate you having
Yeah.
me. Thank you.